It's December 9th, 10th time frame, and we have movers coming in like a week. We've got to start getting some stuff over here and into the cupboards so that there's room for the movers to bring the big stuff. Hi, I'm Mitch, and this is John. Well, the seal is
do the job right first time.
Around Thanksgiving, we acquired a 2-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home double-wide very close to Tampa Bay in Palmetto, Florida. And we're going to take you through the whole trial and tribulation of renovating this little 1980s beauty and making it into something that we really love. From renovation, tear out, changing light fixtures, painting, fixing problems, and discovering things that weren't disclosed to us before the closing. This big cube thing gonna be my wall storage, and that is gonna go right here. We're gonna be shopping locally to source most of the materials that we use for this renovation, including even looking on Facebook Marketplace, which I heavily use to get some of the additional furnishings for in this house. I am at home. Our mission is to turn this place into something that has a beach cottage vibe while still being true to its 1980s mobile roots, and not trying to make this place something that it isn't, but trying to enhance the good bones that are here. So join us for the renovation, the knowledge, the tips, the tricks, the how-tos, the pitfalls, and the things to remember as we transform this adorable little mobile into our very own beach cottage. This is our cool doorbell. I love this. Welcome to the Beach Cottage Doublewide. Okay, John's busy on the master bedroom, bathroom area floor. He's cranking on that stuff, and we've got movers coming in days. We've got junk removal people coming even before that. And slowly but surely, I've been packing up the old house and trying to get some things over here to the new place. And that way I would have room to put other boxes from the old house so that the movers could take most of everything all at one time. And that's one of the pitfalls of not moving everything all at once, but trying to go back and forth. It's a trap that you fall into because it's a local move and you're not going that far, so you think, oh, you can just run back and forth. Well, it ends up running you ragged is what it does. And it's tricky because local move, not that far, you're already in that brain trap of thinking, oh, you can just run back and forth, and you're living with one foot in one place and the other foot in the other place, and it's pulling you at the middle. There was no way to load everything into boxes and still be able to, move around the place. So what I started working on was lining the shelves so that I could bring the food and the pots and pans over, get some of that out of the way, and maybe think about being able to spend a night here and try this place out and see how it all went. Remember, our requirements for feeling like we were settled before Christmas was being able to sleep here, cook here, and be able to shower and do laundry here. So, with that in mind, let's tackle lining some of the shelves to get this place in shape to have things put in the cupboards. Now, there's pros and cons also to shelf lining versus painting. Number one, I don't have to wait for paint to dry. The minute I've got the liner in, I can put stuff inside the cabinets. Number two, I can't take John off the flooring that he's doing in the other room and have him paint the cabinets and the inners and all that stuff because we don't have that kind of time. We're trying to get in for Christmas, and I don't have 2 days to spend waiting for paint and then another layer of paint to dry. And I don't have the extra couple of days it's going to cost us to take John off the flooring job back there and have him do these cupboards. And at 5'6" and on a walker, I'm not tall enough to paint kitchen cabinets. I'm just not. So while it is a little more expensive to buy shelf liner, time-wise, it's actually a lot faster to do it with shelf liner. Even though I'm taking my time, I'm cutting and doing all that stuff, I'm not waiting hours or days for paint to dry. And I don't have that time to burn. I just don't. I use a product called Easy Liner made by Duck Brands, the people who make duct tape, in a color called Taupe Buds. And it was available at my local Walmart. You can get it in the store or you can get it online. Now, in the store, they don't have all the sizes that you see here available. Online, you have more flexibility with that. And the nice thing about this shelf liner is that it's machine washable. So if you do spill anything or get it dirty, you can take it out, wash it, and put it back. Also, I should add, I bought this at the local Walmart rather than ordering it online. This was a mistake on my part. I didn't know that there were more sizes available. Had I known that, it would have probably cost me a little bit less to get the kitchen taken care of. But at the time, I didn't know all those sizes were there. So learn from my mistakes and check out that there are more than one size roll that you can purchase. Now, shelf lining can go a couple of ways here. You can use the sticky stuff, which I did not want to do, because this non-stick stuff, it's got like a little foamy cushion to it for your dishes and stuff like that, sort of like that. You can use this stuff, which I like, which is, thicker. You can cut it with scissors and get this to go a little faster, but not be as nice and neat and even. Or you can measure and use a rotary cutter and mark things so that you have a much nicer, neater job inside your cupboards. And that's what I opted for. And just for clarification, before I brought all this stuff to put into the cabinets, I went through, wiped the insides of them down, vacuumed up stuff. There was like spilled coffee and something else in there. I don't even know. So I had to clean everything out before I could think about getting stuff back in. Holy crap, I've got a lot of crap here. It's all sitting on the counter right now because I've got the cabinets, nothing's in them. They're empty so that I can put these liners in and, not try to work around all the stuff that's in the cupboards to begin with. So you can see I've got some of my bowls and some other appliance things out here. Here's all my stuff. And you'll see a little Fiskars cutting mat. I have a Fiskars cutting mat there and an Olfa rotary cutter in order to cut this stuff. And I was kind of trying to figure where I was going to put some things. I was trying a few things out. Really wasn't sure I was going to organize the room yet, but it's kind of chaos right now, so I got to do something. I figured out where things were going to fit and where they were going to work. And then I tried putting a few things in a couple of cupboards just to see where they were going to work and where things were going to be useful for, cooking flow. Like, where are the cups going to go? Where's the coffee going to go? Where's the mugs and the bowls and all of that stuff going to go? So I'm trying a couple of things out just to get myself going before I really started tackling stuff. And of course, wouldn't you know it, there was a whole box of stuff that I forgot to figure on. So I had everything all figured out, and then I had to figure it out again because I completely forgot a box of stuff. Here we are, got more of it spread across the counters, got a mess going. Here's my Grinch mug. I love my Grinch mug. And at this point, I'm like, oh, man, I'm so discouraged. There you can see some of my pots and pans in that pretty aqua color. And then, of course, we had our drawers to line, too. Now, it turned out that this the top drawer is kind of broken, so I put some liner in there, but we actually have to pull this drawer out and do some gluing and some work on it. So I'm not going to line underneath the stove, but I am going to use that for storing my pot holders, my dish towels, the big spatula flipper, stuff like that. And also, you're going to see some Band-Aids on my hands. I'll be sorting and cleaning knives here, but I did that at the other house the night before and cut the crap out of my palm. Yay. And part of doing all this is figuring out where do things fit. like those, splatter screens, they don't fit there. But you know, my pans do. And my Pyrex fit in that little alcove, and my big mixing bowl fit up there. So am I putting spices here? Am I going to use the nook? You know, like I'm still figuring all this stuff out. Where are the dishes going to go? Where is everything going to have proper flow so more than one person can be in the kitchen? Oh yeah, we did have to have a little liquor cabinet up there too. And ultimately, this is where all the coffee bar kind of stuff is going to end up. And that nook in there underneath where my Grinch mug is where the microwave's going to go. That microwave that's on the counter is really nasty and smelly, and it's a little big, so we're going to get rid of it. I can fit my other appliances down below on that shelf, though. See, like the blender fits there, the air fryer, the food processor. So that actually worked out pretty good, and it gave me more storage than I really thought that I had underneath. And as it happened, I actually had 2 sets of knives. I didn't have any last year, and I got 2 sets of knives for Christmas, which was pretty cool. So I only used one of them for a while, but here in this bigger kitchen where more than one person can actually be doing prep work, actually makes sense to have both sets out. So I unpacked this whole set and washed all the knives off. I was being a lot more careful today than I was the day before, so I didn't cut myself again, because what a pain in the neck that is. But I had to get all the plastic and the cardboard off. I'm rinsing them all off, and then get them into their little block, their little holder. And now I have a set on each side of the sink. So more than one person can be in the kitchen at one time prepping or doing something, and it's really actually great for workflow. We also had to get the water pitchers cleaned and ready for filtering too, because our water here has a lot of chlorine in it, but we needed something to drink while we're working over here, so I managed to do that as well. And I started kind of fitting things into places, you know, sometimes trying different things, take them out, putting them back. There's our temporary eating situation and our liquor cabinet, which is a little empty right now, but we're going to fill it. Only a couple of cups and only about half the dishes, mostly because I didn't want to jam the cupboards full before I really got busy on all the lining of everything. Now for weird cupboards like this one above the stove, I have this skinny little one, this really shallow one because the vent goes up through there behind that, and then another skinny one over here on the side, and another thin one next to it, just to the right of it. So I'm individually cutting small pieces to go in those spaces, and then I'm also going to cut little pieces to go inside of where my spice alcove is too. And to do this, basically, I'm using a Fiskars rotary cutting mat, an Olfa rotary cutter, and I have this big clear ruler you see me using to line up the rotary cutter. It's like a ruler for quilting, basically. People that do quilting know what this is. Most folks might not. Use just a regular, ruler or yardstick. But that clear thing's great. So you take the tape measure, you measure inside the cupboard, and then using the grid on the cutting mat and the grid on that big clear ruler, go ahead and just rotary cut everything so you get a nice, sharp, clear edge, no jagged scissor lines or anything like that. And as long as you measured right, everything's going to come out nice and neat and look nice. Then you also have to take into consideration that there's little, at least in my cupboards, there's these little places where things are put together and built together, and you can either notch out for all of those, which was going to make this even twice as long as it already is, or you can just go behind that mark and just cut a straight line so that you don't have to worry about notching for everything. Also, on a cupboard like this, I have one side that's straight and one side that's angled. So now I take 2 measurements, right? I use the tape measure across the back of the cupboard, then across the front of the cupboard, and I connect those 2 with a straight line, and that gives me my angle without trying to monkey around in there with an X-Acto blade or a pair of scissors or something that's equally as awkward. It gives you a nice, straight, clean cut and allows you to get those strange angles addressed when you're doing this kind of stuff with just a rotary cutter. Now, one of the things I loved about this place was that there was a lot of cabinet storage. There was a lot of places for putting things away. Well, guess what? That also meant there was a lot of cabinets to have shelf liner put in them too. And after a while, if you checked the prices of that stuff that I showed the links to, you'll see that it's not a cheap prospect. Some of the cupboards had liner in them already, and I left that in place until I can scrounge up some more money to get some more of that stuff bought, because besides all the built-ins in just the kitchen, we have the built-ins that are over in the dining area. So I lined the drawers for those also. I didn't line underneath because I wasn't putting dishes or anything like that in there. We're using that for a different kind of storage. But for the smaller drawers, yes. And then, of course, there was the pantry and the kitchen. I lined those shelves too. There you can see the whole thing. So there's shelf liners there. But I also have bathrooms that need shelf liners. And they also have very big cupboards. And these big cupboards, I mean, that one cupboard, that's like a roll of paper and you're done. If you get all of them done from one. So the shelf liners that were in some of these are going to stay in place until I get some more money together and can line the rest of them and make everything match. So how do you calculate how much this is going to cost? In order to calculate that cost, you're going to need to know a couple of things. A, what are the dimensions that this stuff's available in and what is the price? And B, what are the sizes of your actual cabinets? And remember, it's not just the size of the cabinets. You have shelves in there, so you have to measure the shelf size too. In the kitchen cabinets, for example, my shelf in the middle is half the distance, or half the width rather, of the entire cabinet. So there's a big shelf on the bottom and a semi-shelf in the middle. On the upper kitchen cabinets, that's actually 3 different shelves. So it's the same depth and the same length, but it's times 3 on that. Okay, to calculate how much you're going to need of this stuff, you need to know the dimension here, the depth, and your dimension here, your width. And you have to count on that for multiple shelves too. So to calculate how much you're going to need of this shelf liner so that you can figure out a budget for it, you have to measure, and I'm not talking like to the inch every single one, because they're all going to be off a little here, some's a little bigger, some's a little smaller, whatever. But you're going to need a good ballpark, all right? So figure a little to the heavy side. You'd rather overestimate how much you need and buy a little extra rather than underestimate it and have to go back to the store. When I started doing the liners on this, I didn't approach it this way, and I should have, because I still didn't buy enough, and I still have a bunch more to go. And oh my gosh, it takes so much more shelf liner than you think it does. Holy cow. So you're going to measure the depth and the width for each shelf and each drawer that you have in order to total up what you need. Also, I should add, I bought this at the local Walmart rather than ordering it online. This was a mistake on my part. I didn't know that there were more sizes available. Had I known that, it would have probably cost me a little bit less to get the kitchen taken care of. But at the time, I didn't know all those sizes were there. So learn from my mistakes and check out that there are more than one size roll that you can purchase. How much have I already spent on this? And how much more do I need to spend on this? I used 10 rolls in the kitchen. That took care of the tall cupboard and most of the kitchen cabinets, with the exception of where the pots and pans are on the bottom left-hand side of everything. In the dining, I used less than 1 because all I've done so far is just line those 5 little shelves that are on that one hutch. And then in the guest bath, I used a roll. Also forgot to add on here, I also used a roll in the master bathroom area as well. So 13 rolls. So that's 13 rolls of the 20-inch wide by 6 feet long, approximately $5.95, $6 a roll. Add to that some sales tax. So I've spent about $85, give or take, right around there on what I've gotten done so far. But I'm not actually done in the kitchen or in the dining area or either of the bathrooms. So to add to what I've already used, I had another whole roll that I used to do the sink and cupboard area in the master bath. Now, I still have the tall cupboards in the master bath to do where the towels and all that other stuff are. The same for the guest bath. The dining hutch bottom shelves I am going to line as well, so there's what I need for those. The corner hutch that's on that angle where the glasses and stuff like that are, that's what I need to finish that area. And the kitchen cabinets where the pans are, since that already had some liner, I left it alone in there, even though I want to replace it and make it match. But now that I know that I have access to multiple different size rolls online, I was sort of able to figure out what I need for rolls as well, and then take into a calculation how long these rolls were. So my initial calculations when I was writing things down, I just wrote down what roll I would need them off of, but not exactly that I would need one roll for this and 2 rolls for that or anything like that. By my calculations, figuring what I can get out of each roll, I'm presuming that I need to spend approximately $95 more on this liner in the varying size rolls to finish this project up completely. So there you have it, the good, bad, the ugly, the costs and the calculations on how to get your shelf liner done. Go ahead, take and learn from a couple of the mistakes that I made so that you can get your own project done with a little less waste on the actual material itself. I had to cut some strange sizes and try to cut things in half, and it ended up being a little goofy for the first half of this because, again, didn't know that the different size rolls were available. Now that I'm armed with that information, and you are too, you can go ahead and calculate this the correct way and figure out your budget a lot more tightly and really dial it in. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Beach Cottage Doublewide, and stay tuned because there's lots more renovation to come. Upcoming next, we're going to take a look at what happens when we have the junk removal folks over.